Okay, hey my lovelies. I decided to, after all, to do the video on the pâte sucrée, which just means sweetened pastry. It's a derivative of, and the reason is because I want you to see that it's the right amount, the right proportions for 16 tarts. However, I'm going to turn it into 12 tarts, I think, but we'll see. I have 225 grams of all-purpose flour. I have 80 grams of confectioner's sugar. I'm doing this the British way. That's why I'm measuring. I've got a quarter teaspoon of regular salt. This will blend easier into the mix than would kosher salt, because there's not a lot of liquid in this. And we're going to just blend that up a bit. Work really fast. This is 115 grams of cold, very cold butter. When I'm making pâte brisée, which is the similar recipe without the sugar, without all the sugar, just maybe a tablespoon, I use this in an ice bath. This is a cold egg yolk from a very large egg from the farm near me. That's providing part of the liquid. We're just gonna I chopped it up, it's cold, we're working quickly. We're putting all of this in at once. If you did this by hand, you would break it up with your fingers into pebbles or pea-sized shapes, as everyone says, and I'm saying it, repeating it. I'm just going to pulse that until we get to those pea-sized shapes. I'm kind of used to my machine, so I know how long it takes. Okay, so now we have our egg and our milk, which is cold. And hold on here. I always need more milk than they say. And when I do pâte brisée, normally I use water. So this is a little bit of an English experiment. And you just feel with your hands where the butter, the state of the butter. And that's, you might not be able to see it, but that's a piece of butter, and it's up, and I lost it. Anyway, it's the size of a small pea. Now we're going to add the egg. Blend that up. It would be wise to get your plastic wrap out now. I didn't, because I was occupied making the mise en place. Then we have the tube, and I'm just going to eyeball it because I make a lot of mess measuring milk with, you know, I've got this hood and I don't know, it's just not easy. Okay. That's 1 tablespoon. Pulse. And guess that's another, that's a big tablespoon. See how it's starting to come together here? I don't think I even have to add more. Let's see. No. It's coming to a ball. My brand new machine is broken, so I have to hold the top of it. Oh, that's a ball. Cold milk, cold everything. The frangipane requires warm, room temperature everything. Room temperature butter, room temperature eggs, room temperature everything. But this is the cold temperature part. So here's my plastic wrap. I'm not even going to bother flouring the surface because I've learned a lot over the years becoming a housefrau. So we'll just put that out somewhere. And the difference between this one and the other one is you don't really need that much flake, the flaking provided by the butter, but you do need it to feel light to the bite, to have a good mouthfeel. And this is very sharp, extremely sharp. And let's just get the last pieces out. And that's your, I may need better, this seems to have been split, this plastic wrap. But you don't even want to need it, you don't need it. Oh, the plastic's not working, hold on. There are holes in the plastic, dear Liza. I was trying to reuse a piece. Okay, but there were holes in the plastic, Liza. And we're going to flip it. Get all our bits. Tastes really good. And we're just going to push it together a little. And what I would prefer to do right now, this is going to refrigerate for 30 minutes while we make our, and you can see the pieces of butter in, can you? I don't know if you can. My lighting's not great today. One of the bulbs burned out, and I don't know. It's Sunday. Anyway, so I want to make a rectangle or a square for the final. I think I'm making a rectangle for this because I'm redoing this recipe I'm planning to change it from a 16 tart recipe to a 12 tart recipe because of the shape of my pans, which are unusual. Okay, so that goes in the fridge, just like that. 30 minutes while we make our frangipan. So we're making the frangipan, and we have equal weights of regular sugar, granulated sugar, 65 grams. 65 grams of butter, and 65 grams of almond flour, almond meal, ground almonds, finely ground, which makes it a flour or a meal. We're going to, and I have 2 tablespoons of flour, which comes in another stage. Oh, also the almond extract. Okay, so we want to fluff these up. We need to fluff the butter for about a minute, or maybe 30 seconds. Part of the thing about the way frangipan bakes is the aeration. So you don't want to skip this aeration steps. Now we're going to add the 65 grams of sugar, and we're going to fluff that up together at medium-high for at least 2 minutes. All right, that's been 2 minutes. The color's changed to a light yellow. I don't know how to get this thing to stay off, but you need to scrape down the sides. And I forgot to mention, you need your egg to be room temperature. Everything's room temperature, for this, kind of like when you're making a cake or cookies. And we're going to put that on low. We're going to add, this is an extra large egg, but a large egg would do. And kind of let that get in there. Then we have our 2 tablespoons, level tablespoons of flour. That's going to give it some body. We just want to whisk that together. And we want to get the flour off the sides until it looks like scrambled eggs. It already looks like scrambled eggs. Let's whip that together for about 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. Let's do a little aerate a bit. Add half the almonds and mix slowly. And I'm going to shut that off, and we're going to fold the rest in order to preserve the aeration that we've achieved. And oh, I forgot, very important thing not to forget, but this is a good stage. This is a good stage to remember. I need a teaspoon of almond extract to boost the flavor. Of course, it's not always wise to measure this over the bowl, but I'm going to. All right. That's pure almond extract, not artificial, of course, never artificial. Take that out. Now we need to scrape everything. All right, so now we need to scrape everything down before we fold in the rest. It's quite aerated. Nice. Looks a bit like scrambled eggs, but only kind of undercooked scrambled eggs, let's say. Okay, so I want to get my little spatula out here to get everything, because, you know, almonds, ingredients aren't free, and you need to get everything. So let's do that, and then we'll, let's get that off. Looks good. Lots of stuff. Lots of delicious frangipane. And then we're going to fold in the rest here. Just put it all in. And as you've seen me do before, you go down the center and lift and fold, go down the center, lift and fold, and then that is kind of simple and quick, because there's not a lot here. This is going to be piped with the plastic, I'm using a freezer bag to pipe it, because that's really easy, and you can just dispose of it or wash it and use it again, but you won't need any special tips or special bags. So this is what it looks like. All of this can go away. This is what it looks like. Let's get some light on it. A little bit like scrambled eggs. And you're ready to go. You're ready to put the jam in the tarts. And oh yes, the oven is heating up to 355. Now we're going to prepare, and also something that got cut off from the previous video was I have a large baking tray, and I put it in the oven and turned it oven on to 355. Reason being, because you might have tartlet shells, tins for tarts that are individual, and they could overflow and they might not sit properly in the oven. I'm using this. It's a shallow tin. I didn't like how it worked before because there wasn't enough room for the jam. But I've decided to reuse it this time, and instead of making 16 tarts, I'm making 12, and I'm going to use my damper plunger here, which I love, and try to get them to grow higher than the lip, which will give me more space. So now I'm going to use the baking spray instead of butter, but you could use butter. This is just easier. Don't overdo it. Comes out pretty thick. Okay, so put that aside. The oven's warming up, so we don't want this to get warm. And now we're gonna cut. The reason I made a rectangle is because I want to cut. Oh, and you know what? You don't need flour for this. That just makes the crust tough. Just use your plastic wrap. And I'm gonna go down the center, and I'm gonna cut these into 6. So each side will make 12. So let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, that's not enough. That's not enough. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. No. Okay. Turn it over. I did it. When you use a square and you just divide each square and each square, you end up with 16. But I'm trying to do this differently, and you'll see why in a moment. So let's see. Let's do each of these. If I do 3, what if we cut down the middle like that? And then do 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. There we go. They are getting sticky, so operate quickly. 1, 2, 3. Let's do 1, 2, 3. Okay. Should be fine. So then what you're gonna do is these are sticky, but they're not too sticky that you can't roll them into balls. So roll them into balls like this. And these are gonna go back in the fridge before we work with them again. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about the butter. If you're working quickly, you don't have to worry about the butter melting. And they are marbled with butter, which is nice. Just do it quickly. Your hands will warm them. Some will be bigger. It's just part of doing homemade things. If something looks crazily big, you can always take some off and add it to a smaller one. And when you see a smaller one, okay, that's a big one. They're pretty similar, but I just want to show you how you get a quick result from this rolling method. That one's fat. That one's small. Okay, that's very small. Take some from there. Make it a bit bigger. This one's quite large. Take a little from there. Make this bigger. Okay. So we don't want to stress this stuff too much, or you'll have a mess. So I have my sprayed pan greased if you're using butter, and we're going to press this down like that. Oh, you know where you do need flour for one thing. Hold on. You need flour for your hands if you're doing this by hand. And if you're not doing it by hand and you're using this device, and I can't remember where it comes from, I just liked it. And you press straight down and you have a perfect tart shell. So we're just gonna keep doing that. Get it into a disc form, flour the device, and press. And you're gonna have nice high edges. See how that works? So I'm gonna do the rest, and then I'm going to chill it again for 15 minutes. Okay, we have our shells beautifully created. Now I want to dock them with a fork to the bottom so they don't puff up and squeeze out the filling. And then this will go in the fridge again while we make the frangipane filling. So there we go, just like that. And we're set for the next stage. Okay folks, so we have our chilled tart shells. We needed them chilled because we have to work on the filling. I'm using the traditional raspberry jam, sort of pretty generous. I'm going to have to squish that down a bit. That's why this jam is not, it's also at room temperature. So we're just going to put it in there, and then I'm going to try to spread it. But one doesn't have to spread very much. That looks like a little too much. Put it in here because the heat of baking will help with that. But we do want to see the layer when they're finished and cut down. Okay, so we'll just, I used jelly once last time, cherry jelly, and the jelly just sort of melted into the crust, as jellies want to do. So let's just try it with the traditional jam. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I'll leave this out in case I want more. So let's just spread it around. Remember, my oven's on, so I don't want to waste time because the crusts will melt. So just spread that around a bit. And they don't have to touch the edges. It just has to get flattened a bit. It will probably melt together. Let's just continue working as quickly as you can. And when I find ones that are not jammy enough, see, like that one, I'll skip it and add some more. I'm going to make a piping bag out of a Ziploc bag. And I'm going to put the frangipane into it. Like that. And I'm just hoping I have enough. There's the aeration in this, which should help it rise, but then it will settle again, which is fine because you want it, you don't want domes in the end. You want a flat surface because that's how you get that kind of slightly concave, sugary icing effect with the cherry in the end. So here we go. I'm gonna make a mess, I can see that. And we're going to, you don't really have to close it. What you have to do is smush it into a corner like that. If you zip it, the air won't come out and you won't be able to do this. I can tell you for a fact that that tastes good. And then we're going to take an inch off the corner and make a nice fat piping bag out of it. And we're going to pipe filling just enough to cover if you spread it. All right? Like that. I think this is looking good. And you don't need to get to the edges of the pastry. You just want to cover the jam. And there should be enough to finish these. And I'm rationing now, but now I can go back and get the ones that look kind of small. Right? Okay, so I think that went well. Now we're going to clean off this miniature offset spatula, and we're going to let it be wet and just, actually, you know what, I do want to cover all the jam. You know why? Because it might bubble out, and there's a high likelihood of that happening. Can you see what's happening? I'm using my offset spatula to cover the jam right to the top of the pastry. I'm happy with how the pastry turned out. Tout fini goes in for 20 minutes. I may turn them at 10 minutes. I probably will, because my oven is not, you know, convection, and it's very uneven. There we go. I'm quite excited. Yay. Okay, now, folks, it's been 22 minutes. I'm taking the tray within the tray out. I left it 2 extra minutes because you want to see a little bit of golden brown, just a little bit of goldenness on the crust. And you want to see these domes of the frangipane. They will flatten. And now we're leaving it on the hot tray in the hot pan tins. And that's going to be, they're going to continue to cook because we want that lovely, slightly, you know, that golden brownish color in the bottom. And we don't want them to be soggy. So we leave it like this for 15 minutes. I'm not even turning on the fan or anything. And these domes will deflate a bit. Hey folks, so I have my tarts here, my tartlets, which are Bakewell tarts. They're covered because I don't want them to go stale. I'm just gonna throw in roughly 1.5 cups of icing sugar into a bowl because we're making icing. And we're going to shake that all through. Sorry for the noise. There don't seem to be any lumps in this, but it's always good to do this with icing sugar when the final result is meant to be a smooth sugar, and there are some lumps, and I'll just use my hand and add, this is not royal icing. If this were royal icing, which gets very, which hardens nicely in position, you would be using egg whites or meringue powder. I use meringue powder because you'd have to own an entire chicken factory to do as many coats as I do. And you know what, I'm not going to use this because it's just going to glom onto it, because it'll glom onto the tongues or the tines or whatever you want to call it. So I have 3 tablespoons of cold water 1 3/4 of icing sugar, confectioner's sugar, and you'll see that that giant pile of sugar gets small fast. And what you want to do is you want to keep mixing, because that moisture is more effective than you think, and it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You want it to be goopy, but you don't want it to be you don't want it to have, you want it to be goopy enough to stay on top, but you don't want it to be goopy enough that it has lumps, or that you don't want it liquid enough that it falls over. You need it to stay put. But let's just assume I have enough here to do a few. And if not, I'll make more. It's not really a problem. So what I want to do now is take my spatula and make it smooth. Like that. That one looks good. This one poured over the bottom. Nothing I can do about that. But you want to cover the frangipane as much as you can. And actually, I don't really need the spatula because it's self-leveled, which is quite lovely, because that's really what you want. And then I'll do the rest, but I want to show you, I do a half a glacé cherry in the center of each one. And some of that pink shows through, which is traditional, which is not necessary. It's an extra step, of course. And if it spreads off, no big deal. Just makes it look more homemade. Okay, so that's the beginning stage of Bakewell tarts. No, it's the ending stage. Sorry, the end.